All right, hello everyone, and we are back for another Authors Impact Hub podcast. We've been going really strong with the author Q&A, so I'm excited. We've been reaching authors all across the US. So real quick, I'll introduce myself. I am your host, Juanita Woodson, founder of the Authors Impact Hub. And tonight we have a special guest on with us, Rella B. I always let the authors do their own introductions, but I'm super excited to learn a little bit more about her project, her initiatives, all things Rella B. So I'm going to pass the floor to you. You can introduce yourself to us.
Thank you so much. So I am Gabriella, but I go by the pen name of Rella B. One, because I think it's more fun and kid friendly, and two, because it's easier to remember. So I have all of my companies run under Rella B Books, and I run a YouTube channel for kids where we do fun interactive readings. We have a screen-free podcast, which is all about inviting other authors that are also in the kidlit space to come and read their books to us. And then I create my own children's books as well.
Yes, I love it. And I can just tell. So it's very colorful, right? So you are all things children's books. So you said that you have a space where you invite authors on to read their books, but you also are a children's book author as well. So tell us a little bit about the title of your book and how you got started in writing.
Yeah, so I've been writing for a really long time. I love, love, love writing children's books. I've always wanted to write. Even when I was in third grade, we published our first children's book as part of a school project, and we got a binded book in our hands that we got to illustrate and write ourselves. And when that happened, I was like, oh my gosh, I just want to be an author when I grow up. And I mean, there's a lot of things that came in between then and now, but I wrote for a lot of years. I lost all of the work that I was working on, and then I had to rebuild it up. And I was like, that was a kick in the pants that I needed to start doing this. And I think if I would have really dug deep, I may have started with romance just to like get more income flowing in before the
Okay.
children's books, because children's books is a harder sell than romance is, just very transparently. Um, but I mean, I wouldn't trade it for the world. I love everything that I'm doing right now, and it's healing my inner child.
Yes. Yes, I love that. So what is this colorful project that we have behind us, if shapes could eat? Yes. Okay, so tell us a little bit about this is your new book that just recently came out. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yes, so right now, as we're talking, it's currently in pre-orders. If Shapes Can Eat is all about these little shapes that learn that it's okay to try new foods. We should all try new foods and celebrate the different ways that we can all eat. Some of us have different needs, though, like allergies or intolerances, and that's okay. So throughout the story, they're at a block party where they have a ton of different food and they get to try it all out. But my little rhombus friend starts to eat a little bit too much cake, and by a little, I mean like 8 pieces too much. And they realize that maybe we should practice a little bit of moderation as well, because we all have our favorite foods, but that doesn't mean that we need to eat them all in one sitting. So there's a lot of different themes that go along in this book, and it's part of a series. But the main goal of this book is to get kids to try new foods and understand it's okay if your brother likes pickles and you don't.
Yes, yes, I love that. And you mentioned something before you said so like this is your way of healing your inner child through writing. So how do you come up with the different themes for the books that you do write?
Yes, so for the first book that I actually wrote but didn't publish in the kidlit space, that was strictly based off of my daughter. It'll be coming out next year in 2025, but it's just affirmations telling her to be brave and strong, and that even though she may have nightmares, that she can get herself through it. I have another book called Mom, I Got a Dollar, and she literally came up to me and was like, Mom, I got a dollar, like, because she got some money in her little purse. And I realized that she had no recognition of the fact that like we work for money. It's not easy to come by. It doesn't just come in the house and like go
Listen.
get apples itself. So I wrote a book named Mama I Got a Dollar, and that whole series, Mama I, is based off of her. But Mama I Got a Dollar is specifically about her finding a dollar and learning from her different family members what you can do with it and the early concepts of debt, because it's not something that's talked about in children's literature.
Yeah.
And then the If Shapes Could Talk was actually developed from talking to different coworkers that I had. And I realized that it's so easy to think that you know what's going on in what's going on in someone else's life based on what you see, but you don't know what they had to go through to get there.
Yeah.
So that's what the whole series is about. And the second book, If Shapes Could Eat, is just talking about the food element. The first book, If Shapes Could Talk, is hitting that jealousy and comparison element more. And then there will be more books in the series as well.
Okay, I love that. So that's one thing I enjoy about Kidlit, right? So I love the way that you're able to be creative and sharing a message that they may not learn in school, or maybe they may not even learn that in their own home, just depending on like what their family dynamic is. So I really enjoyed that about children's book literature. So how else do you connect with children through your initiatives?
So I have been getting out into the community a lot more with writing workshops and just letting kids know like we can be really creative. And something fun that I do with Mama I Got a Dollar is actually having kids think about different ways that they can create a business. And then I take that a little bit of a step further with If Shapes Could Eat, because I have kids start thinking about one, we can start a business, but we can start a business based on a community that may have different needs than us. Because If Shapes Could Eat, there is the little red hexagon. She has allergies. And so there's tons of nonprofits that are like dedicated to serving people with allergies, because an EpiPen can very easily bankrupt you if you are not expecting
Yeah.
those costs. So I get them thinking about the business aspect, but also empathy and thinking about a different need that they can serve outside of themselves in a workshop as well. So I try to spin my books into a way that I can show little kids empathy and show older kids, one, how you can be empathetic, but two, how you can monetize your empathy in a way or just monetize your passions.
Yes, that's amazing. I love that. You have to start thinking about ways to monetize early. There's always, I see this meme, right? And it's about the housing market. And it's if I would have known that houses cost so much right now, I would have started saving when I was like in kindergarten. Yes. So getting children to start thinking about like business and monetizing, it's important to do that now. The world has changed so much. So that we almost have to like start saving our dollars at an early age. So I love that you're being able to kind of show them a different creative way to save their money and to think about it. So when we think about writing and we think about the business side of writing a book, and you did mention earlier that you would have went in a different direction. You would have went towards romance first. So what are some of the challenges that you have faced as an author, and how have you overcome those challenges?
Yes, of course. So, as a children's book author, I feel like the barrier to entry is a little bit lower than any other type of author because the word count is lower. However, I mean, it's still a lot of investment. You still have to pay for an editor, you still have to pay for illustrations, and in some ways, it can be way more expensive than a novel. But because so many people just like to blast their information out there and they don't always have like the best quality information or stories or illustrations, it just kind of floods the market. And it also turns people off from just trying to find new authors, and they stick to the classics like Eric Carle, which I mean, I don't blame them. I have his books too. But that's something that I did research in the beginning, but I think now getting into it, I'm coming up on my first year and realizing how I've branded myself apart from how other authors have branded themselves. Like I can recognize very easy things that like can distinguish you from somebody else, especially in the kidlit market. And you just have to be a little bit more hungry. I thought I was going to be able to do everything online, but that's just not really how it works for kidlit. Like for romance, sure, but kidlit, like because all parents, all of your audience are not online. And I do feel like some of my books serve a lot of like homeschool parents that may not be online because they have different uh, curriculum that goes with them. It's harder to reach them unless I go to resource events or trunk or treats or just get out and then people can spread the word, if that makes sense.
Yes, definitely. And it's a great way to connect with your community, right? When you go out to events, like you said, you can meet people that you may not have met online. And then even being able to do like school readings, daycares, all of those things, because children aren't typically online when we think about children's book, depending on like what age group that you're working with, they're not online. So you get to go and really engage and interact with them and almost like act out what's going on in the book. So that's the fun thing about being a children's book author is being able to get out there and connect with your audience too.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, so tell us a little bit about Rella B books, right? About your program where you read children's books on YouTube and then also you have authors come on as well. Tell us a little bit about how you got started in doing that.
So when I decided that I was going to be an author, I knew already that it was a really saturated market. So I wanted to stand out. And I wanted to have a way that my readers could connect with me, whether they were children or adults or even other authors. So I decided that I would make a podcast where I could connect with other kid authors. And I don't just have authors come on and have them read their story. I also do a stretch with the kids, a riddle with the kids, and then we disseminate the different lessons in the book. But after all of that stuff, I picked the author's brains about what's worked for them, what they would do again, things that they've learned. And that's honestly helped me a lot on my own journey. For my YouTube channel, I have authors send me their books and I have fun graphics and I also do a stretch, ASL, Spanish, and then a riddle with the kids. And then we read the book and go over the lessons a little bit. So I wanted to have ways that I could not only make books accessible because everybody can't see and everybody cannot hear. So I am working currently on getting my videos ASL translated. It's a bit pricey, so I'm trying to figure out that part of it. Um, but I'm really excited because I want kids to always read, whether it's an audiobook, whether they're reading, or whether they're watching someone sign to them. Like it's really important to just make sure that they're able to consume information.
Yes, absolutely. I love that. And then I love that you're taking it a step further to make sure that it's accessible to all types of readers or learners. So that's really important. But making reading is important, and I think sometimes like our technology in a way has, I don't want to say eliminated the love for reading, but it has. So I'm always thankful when I see programs like yours and you connect children to reading in a different way. I love the ASL version of that on there. So I know I have to connect with you myself to get my book to you so that we can share that with children as well. So one question, what is something that you would tell or a piece of advice that you would give to a children's book author, someone that's thinking about it and they're scared to take that step, right? What is a piece of advice you would tell them?
So I would say to start stalking people now and start your social media now. And what I mean by that is just post your process. Even if you haven't written your book yet, start your Instagram and say, hey, I'm writing a book. Hey, these are my thoughts. Hey, these are my first sketches, and get that buzz and community based around the book that you're writing. Because if you're writing a book about dietary needs, you can connect with nutritionists or pediatric dietitians. If you're writing a book about autism, you can connect with people in that space through social media. And for the stalking part, there's a ton of different resources when it comes to author resources and
Yeah.
kidlit space, romance space, any type of space you want, you can find it, whether you're doing author visits or whether you're doing author resources or free giveaways. You can find a group for what you need, but it's important to find people in there that are giving like pure gold nuggets
Yeah.
and then follow what they do. And I know people are like, oh, you shouldn't copy, blah, 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 blah. But if someone is not gatekeeping and they're making it on their own, you don't need to copy them, but you do need to remix what they're doing. And there is no shame in remixing what someone has already made successful. Many successful people will tell you to find someone that's already been successful and
Yes.
emulate them. Like, come on.
Right. Yes. What is the purpose of a mentor if you think about it in that way, right? A mentor is showing you what they've already, well, should have done successfully, right? And then you make it your own. So there's nothing wrong with that, but definitely community building is very important because being an author, it can feel sometimes like a lonely journey, right?
Yes.
Especially if you have never done it before. So connecting with the right people and not being afraid to build network and communicate with other people. And don't be afraid to ask a question, right? If you need help. The only answer they're going to give you is either no answer or they're going to give you some steps to to help you with what you need. So I love that. I love the stalking part. I think that's very funny. And then the breakdown. It was important to break that part of it down, definitely. So when you think about doing a children's book, right, you're always you use different characters. So what was that process like for you finding an illustrator for your projects?
So I know a lot of people struggle with Fiverr, but honestly, Fiverr has been one of my best friends. I do always get multiple samples. So samples do cost me like a pretty penny because I just want to make sure that the person is one, not using AI, and two, I can communicate with them well because
Yeah.
I've had some people give me beautiful samples, and then when I'm like, okay, I just want this change, like this small part, I want it like this, and this, and I can demo it out for them and everything. They still don't do something correctly. I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, this isn't the illustrator for me. Um, so I think that's one of the biggest parts of being a kidlit author because you do have to communicate with a lot of other people depending on what you need. And illustrations, that's a lot of communication. Like it gives me anxiety thinking about
Yeah.
how much I got to communicate to this person. I'm like, you can't just read my mind.
Yeah, right. And it's basically, I mean, editing is important, but when you think about like the children are gravitating towards the illustration, right? Your book cover, all of those things. They say don't judge a book by its cover, but ultimately some you do. You decide sometimes if you're going to pick up a book and want to walk away with it based off of the cover. So your illustrations are important. It's important to invest the money in doing that. So have you found like, do you use multiple different illustrators sometimes, or have you narrowed it down like this is my go-to?
So, for my If Shapes Could Eat, I do have one illustrator that I do everything with, just because everything's very flat and it makes sense because they're shapes. I have another go-to illustrator for my Mama I series, and then I'm working really hard right now to get a list of other illustrators that I want to work with for future books because there's just so many that I have on my mind. So I
Yeah.
just want to make sure that they can communicate successfully and I make notes of all of them.
Yeah, definitely. So I hear future projects. So that means you are working on a lot more just children's book. What other pieces do you have going on with your brand?
So many. Oh my goodness, so many. I have books that are mixing in personalization. I have books that are mixing in movement because that's one of my main things is I want kids to consume media that is safe for them, but I also want them to get up and move with it. So how many books tell you to get up and move with them? I only know of a couple of series that do that. So I will be having a book that does that. Um, and then just like some fun books that are based off like family members and things
Right.
like that. So I think it's important to do things that make your heart happy, but also research the market because I didn't do that with my first couple of books, and they do okay on Amazon, but they could do a lot better if I would have known what I didn't know in the beginning. So I am having some covers redone just because cover design is something that not everybody understands going into creating children's books.
Yes, definitely, definitely. And I know I say the same thing, like my first book. Oh, if I would have known everything that I know now, I would have done it different. But the good thing is that you learn and you grow, and then you can share those tips with other people so that they can make a greater impact with their projects as they're putting them out. So I'm excited to continue connecting with you and seeing all of the amazing things that you have going on. How can we follow you on social media? And then how can we also order your books?
Yes, so if you look up Rella B Books, that's RellaBBooks, anywhere like on Google, Instagram, Facebook, you'll find me. It's just at Rella B Books. And if you want to find me on Amazon, you can find all of my books under that pin name as well. And then RellaBBooks.com will take you straight to my homepage where I have links to Amazon, or you can buy it from me direct as well.
Awesome. Yes, we will definitely have to make sure we check out all of the great things by Rella B Books. So I always end the show with one last question. So I always ask, what impact do you want your books or your author brand to leave on the world?
So ultimately, my goal as a kidlit author is to make sure that kids never stop reading. I want them to find joy in reading, and whether it is that they're disseminating information or they're just finding moments to escape through the day, I just want kids to never stop reading.
Yes, I love that. And I love to read so I can escape from the day too. So, yes, I love that. Thank you so much for taking some time out and sharing about your journey, sharing about your books. I know that we'll have to get you back on really soon so that we can talk more things kidlit. I know that there's so much knowledge that you have to share. So we want to make sure that we can continue to give that space to authors to come on, encourage other authors and be able to talk about their own journeys. It's very important here at the Authors Impact Hub. So, listeners, make sure that you please go and connect with Rella B. Make sure your kids connect with her as well. All the great things that she has on the way for them. And then make sure you share, like, and leave a comment of our interview this evening. And stay tuned for our next episode. Take care.